Hello, can I be heard? Okay. So hello, I'm Barnabas from Momentum from Hungary, and I'm one of the founders of this political organization, political party. I've been involved with the operative and then lately with the political leadership of the party, so I can talk a bit about that. So I'm going to talk about three things. First is the global challenge, which is written right here, is the crisis of democracy. The second one is our local challenge with Orban's authoritarianism. And then the third is how to actually build a movement. So what is this global challenge, this crisis of democracy? I think there are three main aspects to it. The first one is economic inequality, which is becoming larger and larger, especially within countries and not just between countries. The second one is radical change and above all, radical technological change. And then the third one is the lack of representation, and especially the lack of representation of young people. And where populism comes into this picture, I don't think it's actually an ideology. I think it's a tool which certain smart but not really well-intentioned people use to further their aims. It used to be exiled, it used to be in the toolcase of far-right parties, but now it's getting towards the center, and as you can see, it's getting more and more widespread even in this country. The usual examples given for populist leaders is Putin, Erdogan, Orban, and I will talk most about Orban because I'm most familiar with him. Unluckily or luckily, you can say. Between these people, I don't know which one the best. Okay, so what is Orban talking about? On the surface, he talks about things like migration. He builds a fence, and then before everyone else, and then Europe quickly follows suit. And then it seems that he is this great Nostradamus, where in reality he just used the populist tool, which is segregation and racism. And then the second one, seemingly he talks about George Soros, a university, Central European University, to which I'm a proud alumnus of. And then he passes a law against CU, a university. Then he passes a law against a civic organization. Then before that and after that he passes several other laws which are to weaken democracy. And then now he has a billboard campaign against George Soros, where he has George Soros faces on it, and then he claims that George Soros has a plan to put in all the migrants into Europe. And then he uses covert racism. Even this George Soros has an anti-Semitic feel to it. And then he makes Hungarians hate other Hungarians. Like just a week ago, there was a case where in a small village, the villagers were puncturing the tires of the cars of an owner of a hotel because supposedly he was about to receive one migrant family. And that was just, it was nothing, but it was like violence coming up because of the sweeping propaganda. But what I think is really important is to point out that this is just a tool. And actually her real aims are completely different. And if we talk about these issues only, then we miss the big picture. And the big picture is first capturing the state, capturing state institutions so that he can stay in power forever, capturing the media. Right now in Hungary we are in a peculiar situation that the biggest opposition owner of media is the former treasurer of Orban. Then the second one, nationalizing the wealth. And when I say nationalizing, he's not nationalizing it, but he's taking it to his own purposes. Orban is actually the only single multi-billionaire in Hungary. You're never going to find this in the media, but if you actually consider all the people who have in direct allegiance of Orban, he owns more than $1 billion, actually more than several $1 billion. It's really similar to Putin. And the third one is turning away from the usual allies of Hungary, from the US towards Russia and copying Putin. And he's doing it because, with the US and with the European Union, some unpleasant things come, like democracy, and he doesn't really want that. He wants to be in the same club as Russia. And then he's also turning towards Russia because it's forced. Russia is already in the secret services, already infiltrated business interests, and then I don't think he has actually that much choice in it. So what can you do and what can we do in times like this? First of all, while they are really, really important, migration and racism, they are really important. You shouldn't talk about these issues that much because then you are playing in his book. And he has been playing this game for really long and he's really good at it, so you're going to lose in it if you try to argue. You have to hit him where it hurts, which is first turning towards Russia, to the country which actually imposed communism on us for 50 years. I've seen my own grandma suddenly liking Russia after actually her own father was taken to forced labor to Russia for 10 years. And she actually started liking Russia because she was feeding on the government propaganda. And the second one is stealing. you know, he's just stealing money from the people for himself. So you have to point it out. And then the third one is a generational change. We have seen these faces and these, like Putin, Orban, for too long. You know, do we have to wait until they actually die and then maybe some change will come? I don't think we will get change for the better if we wait for that long. And then, so this is where momentum comes into the picture. This idea was 3 years old, but it actually only, as a party, we are only half-year-old. Our first campaign was against Olympics. In Orban's words, we sabotaged the Budapest Olympics, where in reality we just tried to prevent the large-scale stealing, what he wanted to do against the Hungarian people. Everyone told us we were going to fail, but we managed to collect more than 250,000 signatures in a month, in the coldest January we had seen for 10 years. And he was so afraid that one day after we finished collecting the signatures, we turned away and we are no longer going to organize Olympics. And this is it's really important because the first time in 8 years, something didn't go the way Orban really wanted. As a result, our movement grew from 100 people to over 1,500 members, from a few partner organizations to over 100 local groups all over Hungary. Everybody is a volunteer. We are all doing it in our free time, or actually full-time free time. And then we organized several things. We organized a March for the West and for the EU in this May, where more than 10,000 people attended. We are correcting billboards to reflect the realities that they are actually stealing, because there is just no other way of giving out your political opinion, because the media is so constrained. And now we are organizing an anti-corruption protest and an anti-corruption like collecting of signatures on the streets, because that's really important. You have to be on the streets, you have to be in touch with people in order to grow. Right now we are told at 3% and country-wise, and we are aiming towards the election, which is in half year, and we think we can achieve great success because we not only concentrate on this election but on the long term, and we are representing the young people and we are growing. So if I have to give out one last message, that is that do not dwell on petty details like an angry tweet. For all these things melt away and drift apart in an obscure traffic of time. Think about the real game. The real game is that, is what I said, they want to monopolize power, and you shouldn't let them do that. And hit oppressors where it hurts the most, and put it in all the work necessary, because that's a lot of work. If we have to count hours, I think it's 10,000, even million hours of volunteer work has to be put in to actually challenge such great resources. So thank you very much.